Faye is going to be talking about who's that girl that was walking with Todd. And she's like, shut up. People don't do that. Because she was from a big city. I said, I promise you, by 3 o'clock, people are going to be wondering who you are and who's walking with Todd. And she was not believing me, and I'm just sitting there trying to explain small town life to her. And I was getting a little upset because she wasn't believing me. And I just finally just stopped. I looked at her and I said, for all you know, the Holcombs are watching us right now, trying to figure out who you are. And she said, shut up. They are not. And I'm not playing. It was like it was on cue. A half second later, this voice comes out from behind the trees in their grove, said, hello there, Todd. And they were watching from their porch, trying to figure out who that was. And she just stood in the middle of the road and just screamed. She's like, where am I? It's like, small town. That's how it is. So there's a buzz in Bethlehem. It says, Naomi's back. Naomi's back. And she says, don't call me Naomi. Naomi, by the way, means pleasant. Don't call me that anymore. Call me Mara. Mara means bitter. Call me bitter. Because the Lord has dealt very bitterly with me. I went out full, but the Lord has brought me back empty. Don't call me Naomi. The Lord has witnessed against me, and the Almighty has afflicted me. Let's not gloss over this. Remember we talked about in God's sovereignty, there's only two options. And one of them is God either causes what happens in your life or he allows it. One or the other. There's no other options if you're a sovereign God. Now, that leaves some really difficult conversations that you have to have with God when bad things happen. When good things happen, it's real easy. Okay? When there's plenty of gas in the tank and money in the bank and you got a lot of food, your family kind of likes you and your dog loves you, you got a good job, you're getting all A's, you get to take a couple trips every year, things are good. It's easy to be a good Christian then. That takes no effort. But when Stephen just gets hit, one bad thing after another, just gets pounded, and he has that truth in his head that God either causes it or allows it, he's got to do some wrestling with God. Because he's going to go, okay, God, are you letting this happen? Now, let's think about this. Let's just go with that God's letting it happen. Okay? You've just been afflicted like Job. He's letting it happen. What are some questions that you're going to have?
Why would you let it happen?
Why would you let it happen? What's another question that you would have?
When is it going to stop?
When's it going to stop? Real good. What's another question?
Why me?
Why me, right? Why not Mitchell? He's got plenty of good stuff going on. He could take a hit or two. Why? Yeah. What else? What's another question? There's a really important one. How about this one? I thought you loved me. I thought a good God would love me and let me, not let me go through stuff like this. So Naomi is over here saying, don't call me pleasant anymore because life is not pleasant, it's bitter. So how are you going to handle it when the hard times come? Because they're going to come. I wish I could tell you otherwise. But how are you going to handle that? 10 years or less. You lose your job. Your spouse loses their job. Maybe you both lose their job. What are you going to do? See, that's the challenge of the Christian life. It's not how you handle it in the easy times. It's how do you handle it when you're in the middle of a crisis. And one of the reasons I'm so real with you in here, and I probably err on the side of telling you all the hard horror stories, one of the reasons for that is because there's just too much candy apple Christianity all around us. In Lubbock, Texas, it just drips with it. It drips with it. We're the buckle on the Bible Belt. There's literally over 400 churches in this town. If you wanted to play that game of, I think I'll just visit some churches and find one I like, you could play that game for 5 or 6 years and you never hit the same one. Right? So, I don't want you guys to grow up with some version of candy apple Christianity. Life is hard. And Jesus didn't candy coat it. He told his disciples, not if you endure hard times. He said, when you endure hard times. Psalm 34 says, many are the afflictions of the righteous. Good people are going to go through hard stuff. James tells us, consider it all joy when you encounter various trials, because God's working in you to produce perseverance. We just finished talking about Joseph. He would not, and we all agreed he would not be ready to be prime minister if they just pulled him out of the pit and put a robe on him. Right? He had to go through that hard time. He had to spend that prison time. He had to spend that time in Potiphar's house because God was getting him ready. When we look at Moses' life here in a little while, we're going to see that too. He spent 40 years herding sheep to get him ready to take the people of Israel out. And I'm fully aware that where you sit in your chairs today, those are hard concepts to grasp. I hope you at least try. I hope you at least try. So here we go. Let's keep going. Stephen, read chapter 2, verses 1 through 3. Everybody follow along.
Now Naomi had a relative on her husband's side, a man of standing from the clan of
Elimelech.
His name was Boaz, and Ruth and Naomi said to Naomi, let me go to the fields and pick up the leftover grain behind anyone in whose eyes I find favor. Naomi said to her, go ahead, my daughter. So she went out and entered a field and began to glean behind the harvesters. As it turned out, she was working in a field belonging to Boaz, who was from the clan of Elimelech.
Okay, so they got to eat, right? So look at this. Imagine this is a sky view of a field. Okay, you're flying the airplane over the top. And this happens to be Boaz's field. He owns it. He's got a bunch of people working for him. The way the Levitical laws were written up, this is how they took care of the unfortunate or the people who were down on their luck. So they plant all of the field, okay? But they had laws that says the boundary edges like this, they didn't harvest that. They left that for people. It was like a social welfare program where they would get to pick that grain to help take care of them. But you had to work to get it. It wasn't just sit and wait for a check from the government. You went and you gleaned in the field. So Ruth is saying, look, we've got to eat, so I need to find something. So God leads her to this place, to this field that happens to belong to Boaz. Parker, read 4 through 7. Everybody follow along. Yep.
Just then Boaz arrived from Bethlehem and greeted the harvesters. The Lord be with you. The Lord bless you, they called back. Boaz asked the foreman of his harvesters, whose young woman is that? The foreman replied, she's the Moabite.
Yeah, Moabitess.
Moabitess.
Moabite woman.
We came back from Moab with Moabites. She said, please let me glean, gather among the sheaves behind the harvesters. She went into the field and worked steadily from morning till now, except for a short rest in the shelter.
Okay, so Boaz comes back, and he kind of knows who his people are and who they aren't. Said, who's that lady? Who's that girl? Tells him, one that came back from Naomi. Now, so the harvesters, what they would do is they would go through the field, picking up the grain, like if they're going this way, and then people like Ruth would follow along behind, and they weren't allowed to pick the grain that was standing, but they could pick it. So if Avery is one of Boaz's hired guys, and he's harvesting, and he happens to drop some grain along the way, he's not allowed to go down and pick that up. He's supposed to leave that on the ground for somebody like Ruth to come behind and pick it up and keep it for her. Again, it was a way to take care of the people who were down on their luck. And the report that Boaz gets back is like, hey, she's been working like a trooper all morning. She's just taking a little break right now. Okay? Andrew, read 8 through 10.
So Boaz said to Ruth, "My daughter, listen to me. Don't go and glean in another field, and don't go away from here. Stay here with me, and you can work for me. Watch the field where the men are harvesting, and follow along after the women. I have told them not to lay a hand on you, and whenever you are thirsty, go and drink from the water garden." And then he told. At this, she bowed down with the face of the woman. She asked him, "Why have I found such favor in your eyes that you notice me as poor?"
Okay. So Boaz steps in and he says, look, he pulls her aside. He goes, stay here. Don't go to somebody else's field. So if Andrew is our Boaz, right, and Carly is Ruth, he's saying, look, you don't go to anybody else's field. Now, why would he tell her that?
Because he's planning on taking care of her.
No, we're not quite that far yet.
Well, not like marriage, but he's like saying, I can supply for you all your... Actually, no. You can protect
What?
her.
Yeah. What does he know that maybe she doesn't?
It's a cruel world.
Thank you, Adley. Yeah, that life's hard, and there's not all the people are going to be nice like me. Foreign woman, no family, except Naomi. In other words, no husband. She's like this big target. So if Carson over here isn't as scrupulous as Andrew, if she goes to glean over there, she could be in danger. So he's like, you stay here in my fields, I'll protect you. And oh, by the way, I've told my guys, Avery Parker, don't be asking her for her phone number, right? You just stay away. She's, hands off, okay? You're not to mess with her. And Ruth recognizes this protection, and she says, oh, why? What have I done that I found favor in your sight, that you should take notice of me since I'm a foreigner? And it is. It's really kind because she's really a target at this point. But he's like, she's asking, what have I done? Now look, this is a great answer. Parker, read 11 through 12.
Boaz replied, "I've been told all about what you have done for your mother-in-law. Since the death of your husband, how you left your father and mother and your homeland and came to live with people you did not know before. May the Lord repay you in what you have done. May you be richly rewarded by the Lord, the God of Israel, under whose wings you have come to take refuge."
Okay, there's so much in these two verses. His answer was, look, I've heard everything about what you've done for Naomi after your husband died. In other words, I heard about that you could have gone back home to your dad, but you didn't. You stuck with her. What is that? What characteristic is that?
Faithfulness.
Yeah, faithfulness, loyalty. And you're going to a foreign land. She's out of her comfort zone, but she's doing it because she loves Naomi. And then I love verse 12 because Boaz, he's the rich guy, but he recognizes where it all comes from. He says, may the Lord reward your work and your wages be full, not from Boaz, but from the Lord, the God of Israel, under whose wings you've come to seek refuge. Your example to other people, your witness to other people, sometimes it's not going to be sharing a tract with them. In fact, most of the time it's not. But he's showing great kindness to this foreign woman. She's like, wait, she probably didn't even know she was coming to seek refuge under God's wings, but she is. The lesson here is, and I hope you're taking notes, your reputation precedes you. Your reputation precedes you. Good, bad, or ugly, it precedes you. See, you're working on this, well, you should be working on your writing assignment for these 50 consequences. And part of that is that the enemy doesn't want you to think long term. He doesn't want you to think long term. So we don't think right now in the things that you do in the day-to-day that you're developing a reputation for yourself. This probably isn't any big secret to you, but we teachers, we can't help but share information because we're all trying to help you. Okay? So if one of you is struggling in a class, it's not unusual for a teacher to come in and say, hey, how are they doing in your class? What are you seeing? And we swap notes and we compare and we see if am I seeing something that Miss Baxter isn't? You know, is Coach Gilbert seeing something that I'm not? But every year, these are conversations that happen during that week before school starts, right? You know, Mr. Halliday will come in and say, hey, tell me about the class I'm fixing to get, right? Because I will have him the year before. In fact, he was asking about you all the other day. He's already thinking ahead. He's like, tell me about the freshmen. And we had a visit. Your reputation precedes you. Now that said, you doing the Stephen Covey begin with the end in mind thing, if you want to have a good reputation, what do you have to do? What do you have to do? You begin with the end in mind and you work it backwards and you do the right thing that's in front of you right now. That's how you develop a good reputation. You develop a good reputation by being faithful in the little things. And here's the hard part. A bad reputation can be hard to shake. Especially in a school like this. Because some of you have been here since birth. Actually, if we want to get really super physiologically technical, some of you have never not been at Trinity because your parents went here. You've been here in utero, in embryo form, in egg or sperm form. You've been here your whole life, right? If your parents went here. And it can be really hard in a small school like this, if you do something stupid in the 5th grade, or go through a season where maybe you didn't make good choices, it can be hard to shake that rep. You know, that rep that you've got, right? It can be hard to do that. It's much easier to keep a good reputation going than it is to try and rebuild a bad one. I mean, Proverbs talks about that all the time. So that's why we talk about the things that we do in this class. I want you guys to know that your good decisions will be rewarded, even the small ones. When you develop a good reputation of turning your work in on time, of studying hard for your exams, of writing good papers, of being kind to your fellow students, those things don't go unnoticed, even to a guy like me who only's got one eye, right? Those things are noticed. And there's a ripple effect to that too. See, now this assignment is all about the ripple effect, like the bad things that happen. But there's a positive ripple effect too. Because if everything goes well, you will continue to progress through high school, and you're going to get to be seniors, and some of you are going to come knocking on my door and saying, hey, Mr. T, would you write a letter of recommendation for me for my college application? Well, I'm not going to lie on those things because my name's on it, right? So if you've consistently done the right things in the big and small areas, that's going to be an easy letter for me to write. Because you've done nothing but show me your best, right? Does this make sense? And the reason I'm talking with you about this now is that 10 years or less thing is coming up so fast you guys don't even have a clue. It's not your fault, but you don't have a clue. So don't think you're going to wait till your senior year, your junior year to get serious. Be serious now. Because you not only do you build good consequences, you build momentum for yourself. Let's just do a quick scenario. Okay? If somebody comes to me and says, hey, a teacher comes to me who's going to have Adley next year and says, hey, tell me about this Adley girl. What's she like in your class? Right? And if I'm able to say, you know what, Adley always turns her work in on time, she does a good job, if she messes up, she owns it, and she works harder the next time, you're going to really enjoy having her in class. What is that teacher predisposed to think about Adley?
She's gonna like her.
Yeah, she's going to be like, hey, I've heard nothing but good things. So already she's like predisposed to think well of her. So Adley's going to get a little credit maybe that she hasn't even earned yet, right? See what I'm saying? And again, we don't play games with this stuff. We're here because we're trying to help you grow. But sometimes we pound on the negative stuff so much we forget that there is such a thing as a positive ripple effect. And here, Ruth is experiencing it. She said, hey, this guy in the small town said, I've heard all about you. How you left your homeland without a husband and stuck by Naomi. That means something to Boaz. That has value to him. Now, let's keep going. Verse 13, this is her response. She said, I've found favor in your sight. You've comforted me and indeed has spoken kindly to me, even though I'm not one of your maidservants. In other words, look, I'm not even on your payroll. I'm not one of your people, but you're treating me like I am one of your people. Okay, let's not lose this lesson either. Sometimes you're going to be in the position to encourage other people and be a blessing to them in their hard time. That's a great feeling when you're able to help somebody in the middle of a hard season. Like about, I don't know, it's probably a little over a month ago, my truck died in unresurrectable, flatline, code blue, do not resuscitate kind of death, right? We threw a rod bearing the engine, it's just done. It's done. Toast. But I was in the middle of trying to do some financial stuff, so I wasn't able to, I'm like at that moment, wasn't able to just like go out and grab another car. Had to wait for this other issue to settle. So one of my friends said, hey, no problem. We got a car you can use. And I drove the car for a whole month. I said, you sure? And he goes, yeah, we're good. We're good. You just take it. He has no idea how he helped me to keep going and helped me accomplish a whole lot of stuff. And now I've got transportation again and I'm good. But when you have opportunity to be a Boaz and do good things for other people, you want to do that. Okay? And you want to be looking for people that you can help. All right. Let's see here. Ashton, read 14 through 17. Everybody follow along. Chapter 2.
At mealtime, Boaz said to her, come over here, have some bread, and dip it in the wine vinegar. When she sat down with the harvesters, he offered her some roasted grain. She ate all she wanted and had some left over. As she got up to glean, Boaz gave orders to his men. Even if she gathers among the sheaves, don't embarrass her. Rather, pull out some stalks for her from the bundles and leave them for her to pick up, and don't rebuke her. Oh, there's something. So Ruth gleaned in the field until evening. Then she threshed the barley she had gathered, and it amounted to about an ephah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh. She carried it back to town, and her mother-in-law saw how much she had gathered. Ruth also brought out and gave her what she had left over, and after she had eaten enough.
Okay. So, it's all right. So here's what's going on. Boaz has her come over and eat with him. And he gives her roasted grain. And she eats until she's not hungry anymore. And then she's going to go back to work in the field. Now, remember what we talked about. The people that were gleaning here, they couldn't just go up and pick the grain that was already there. That was for the owner of the field. They had to pick up what was on the ground. So here's what Boaz does. So if Andrew's our Boaz, he's talking to Tim, he's talking to Gavin, he's saying, okay, guys, look. I know this isn't typically how we do this, but I want you to make it easy for her. So as you're picking the grain, just throw a few stalks on the ground behind you as you go. In other words, don't make it hard for her. Just go ahead and pull them, throw them on the ground, let her pick them up. And don't rebuke her when she does. So she gathers all this stuff, and when she goes up, now that ephah thing doesn't mean anything to us, what she took home was about a half. You know what a bushel basket is? Any farm kids in here? Bushel basket's about that big around and about that deep. And she brought back like a half a bushel. It was enough to feed her and Naomi for about 5 days. Now, Naomi's response is, where did you work today? Because this ain't her first barley harvest. She knows you don't just go gleaning in the fields and come back with a half a bushel. That doesn't happen. You might get enough to just kind of get enough food for the day, but not 5 days. And then she tells her, well, this guy named Boaz. And Naomi is like, oh my gosh, that's one of our relatives. And she said, you stay in his field. She doubles down on what Boaz said, don't go to another field. You stay there. He'll take care of you. Verse 23, she stayed close by the maids of Boaz in order to glean and stayed there until the wheat harvest, and she lived with her mother-in-law. Okay, chapter 3. Things are going to start to get good here. All right? Adley, read chapter 3, verses 1 through 5. Everybody follow along.
Is this the one where chapter 3, right?
Yep, chapter 3, 1 through 5.
One day, Ruth's mother-in-law, Naomi, said to her, my daughter, I must find a home for you, or you will be well provided for. Now Boaz, with whose woman you have word, is a relative of ours. Tonight he will be winnowing barley on the threshing floor. Wash and put on your perfume and get dressed in your best clothes. Then go down to the threshing floor, but don't let them know you are there until he has finished eating and drinking. When he lies down, take note of the place where he is lying. Then go and uncover his feet and lie down. He will tell you what to do.
Okay, this is really weird for us, but let's talk about what's going on. So Naomi is like, you know what? I'm old, but we need to get you a husband. And she knows how to coach her how to do this. So, and it sounds crazy to us, but she tells Ruth, look, go take a shower, put on your nice clothes, get a little spritz of that Beautiful by Estee Lauder behind your ears and a little on your wrists, right? And go down there, but wait until dark, because women weren't supposed to be here at the threshing floor. So they'd bring all the grain in. They'd bring the bundles of grain in. The threshing floor is where they would beat the grain out, sift it, get rid of it, let the chaff blow away, and then they would keep the grain piled up here. But they would also sleep there because they're guarding it. They don't want, we don't want, Blake and his band of marauders to come here and take all the grain that they've worked so hard to get. And it says, wait till he goes to sleep, and then you go down and lay down next to him. And just kind of pull his blanket off, and then he'll take it from there. Okay? So she does this, and verse 8 says, in the middle of the night that the man was startled and bent forward, and behold, a woman was lying at his feet. And he said, who are you? And she said, I'm Ruth, your maid. Spread your covering over your maid, for you are a close relative. In a way, it's almost like a proposal. Like, I'm here. If you're willing to marry me, I'm willing to marry you. Look at verse 10. Look at his response. May you be blessed of the Lord, my daughter. You've shown your last kindness to be better than the first by not going after the young men, whether poor or rich. In other words, he's acknowledging, ladies, pay attention over there. He's acknowledging the fact that she could have gone for some young buck, right? He's not the young guy, but he's very well established. He really cares about her, and she's exercising good judgment here. Okay, can we just talk about this? In your relationships, please exercise good judgment in who you're dating and who you decide to marry. how many relationships just go off the rails because it's based on, but he's so cute, or she's so pretty. You know what? There's got to be more there than that. You need to go for substance. Okay? Are you hearing me? Guys, we can be especially stupid in this area. Okay? Hey, listen up. This is you guys, listen, you ignore this advice to your parent, okay? I'm putting it out there. It's up to you to pick it up if you want to. But here's what happens with guys. When a pretty girl flashes those big puppy dog eyes at us, listen up. I'm telling you the truth, and you know this is true. When a pretty girl pays attention to us, that's just really good for our ego, right? We just think, wow, I must be the man for a pretty girl, or like Carly, to pay attention to me, right? Guys, I know it sounds kind of funny, but I'm telling you straight up. And that's what happens. We start thinking with our ego instead of our brain. And it clouds your judgment. Ladies, I wouldn't giggle too much because y'all aren't a whole lot better. Okay? You know what? Okay, listen, bring it in. Listen, my friends, trying to help you out here. Ladies, I wish I had $1 for every train wreck relationship I've seen that started because the girl was just stuck on his looks, stuck on the bad boy image that he has, stuck on. Hey, guys, listen, Gavin. Are you listening to me? I hope so. We've got a great example in the scripture here of Ruth thinking with her brain, right? She's making a wise decision. She's looking for what's going to be a good relationship for me. That's why I had you guys make those lists. You need to think deeply about this. It's a measure twice, cut once kind of deal. So don't be so flattered when that girl bats her eyes at you, and ladies, same for you. You can't get all Twitter-pated when the bad boy shows his face. Okay, go to verse 10. Second. Okay, Gavin, easy. Guys. Hey, thank you. Look at verse 10. Hey guys, focus. We're still in class. Verse 10. Carly. Guys. We need to finish this chapter out. Carly, read 10 through 13. Everybody follow along.
And he said, "May you be blessed by the Lord, my daughter. You have made this last kindness greater than the first, and that you have not gone after young men, whether poor or rich. And now, my daughter, do not fear. I will do for you all that you ask. For all my fellow townsmen know that you are a worthy woman." Now it is true that I am a redeemer. Yet there is a redeemer nearer than I. Remain tonight, and in the morning, if he will redeem you, good, let him do it. But if he is not willing to redeem you, then as the Lord lives, I will redeem you. Lie down until the morning.
Okay. So he's letting her know. This is the other thing I like about Boaz. He's being real straight up about. He doesn't just say, "Yeah, I'll be glad to marry you." He does tell her that, But he reminds her that in the line here, there's another relative that's closer. We're not given that guy's name. We'll just call him Mr. X. Boaz is in line after that. Okay? So he says, I will go talk to this guy, and if he doesn't marry you, I will. This is a win-win for Ruth. She knows, look, I'm going to end up being married. Now, it might not be a win-win in that this is a total stranger, and she's probably not jazzed about that. But he's taking care of her, and he's doing the right thing. He's following the rules. Verse 14, she laid his feet until morning and rose before one could recognize another. In other words, it's still dark out. He said, let it not be known that a woman came to the threshing floor. And he gets her cloak, and he loads it up with 6 measures of barley, and then she takes it home. And the reason he's doing that, even in this, guys, I hope you're paying attention, he's protecting her integrity. Because women weren't supposed to be down there, and he doesn't want any rumors getting started about her. So, right, if Andrew is our Boaz, he's saying, look, I want you to get out of here while it's still dark, because I don't want Tim and Gavin, talking about, hey, who was that girl, and casting dispersions on her. Right? Guys, there's so many lessons in the text here if you care to pay attention to it. And in a relationship thing, that's a big deal. You want to protect the reputation of the person that you're with. Does this make sense? Guys, you want to go out of your way to make sure you're protecting the reputation of the person that you're with. Ladies, the same way. Because you just want truth spoken. You don't want rumors or innuendo going on. She goes back home to Naomi with all this grain, and Naomi just tell her, look, just wait, because he won't rest until he's settled it. In other words, she knows Boaz isn't going to just delay this. He's going to get it figured out real quick so that they have a direction. Okay? All right. We're 4-minute break. We're back here at 5 till, and we're starting at 5 till.
All right, brother. Let me just hop on.
I was only 79% Christian.
I was 33% Christian. Hey, at least you weren't 2 points.
Caleb was 100% Christian.
So I was
I was 75% Christian, 24% secular, and 1%
Are y'all talking about the quiz
Wait, seriously?
thing?
Yeah.
I don't understand
There
why
was one
mine
that I
wasn't
accidentally
Christian,
did,
but
like,
I didn't
as
finish
the
that.
page was loading, I was like, wait, and
I don't know what I
pressed
did
other
wrong.
instead
What
of
am I doing wrong, I guess?
the one about,
Bothering me.
I don't
You're
know.
bothering me.
Put your hand out.
I don't know.
No, stop.
Guys,
Riley,
get off
can
your
you grab it?
phones.
I don't know.
What's your issue?
I didn't.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
I really don't wanna go outside.
no, I,
Oh my gosh.
why are you being so awkward?
I don't know. I don't know.
Are you more?
I just didn't wanna take the brush out of your hair. They mad if you just. Yes.
No, I'm just being weird.
I
Well,
said
no.
I
You had to do, like, I'm not gonna issues.
I don't even know, we're not even in the film, so it's not fun for us. It's probably fun for the other girls, we get to see themselves.
Alright.
JP, just practice the same thing.
Yeah, this is what I practice.
Really don't.
That's what I do.
I'm not on my team, I understand
Been
it,
through it.
I all understand it.
Well, we do the same thing too, we're running in the same grade, we have like 12 years, so it's good for me.
I do.
What place do y'all?
Our
Why does everything always work?
we have
I
a
don't like giving swords.
Bet.
Oh, okay.
I mean, when you're right. Oh, yeah.
I think it's over a love that's quick.
so we just kind of
Don't dress with Martinez.
Oh, that's fine.
No!
So we have,
See, then you
we have chat, the zone, Mississippi State, Tulane, Kate.
Okay, hang on, you're my size.
Oh,
Hey, easy.
If I laid my legs out.
oh, shout.
See, I told you.
And all the other girls will go.
Stop, please, I will go. I'm gonna leave. I'm gonna leave. No, no, no! So I'll live. They were. Chill out. Don't touch it. Bro, what's wrong?
By the end of the year, it'll be like.
Oh, I have to collect. I love the classic.
He just sits there.
It happens every year. Yeah. Yeah, what do you think? Why, you didn't even ask me if I would have did it assuming that I did it wrong. But I didn't get it.
Are you so jealous?
It's definitely not fun. Parker, you didn't ask me.
It's like a salt shaker, but.
Okay, let's go. Chapter 4.
15 minutes.
So you're from the bottom ground,
Okay, chapter 4. Riley Cox, can you read for us verses 1? Hey, on the couch over there, peeps. Let's go. Focus. Chapter 4, verses 1 through... 1 through 3.
Now Boaz had gone up to the gate and sat down there, and behold, the Redeemer of whom Boaz had spoken came up. So Boaz said, "Turn aside, friend, sit down here." And he turned aside and sat down. He took 10 men of the elders of the city and said, "Sit down here." So they sat down. Then he said to the Redeemer,
Naomi, who has come back from the country of Moab, is selling a parcel of land that belonged to our relative Elimelech.
Okay, keep going.
So I thought I would tell you of it and say, buy it in the presence of those sitting here and in the presence of the elders of my people. If you will redeem it, redeem it. But if you will not, tell me, that I may know. For there is no one besides you to redeem it, and I come after you. And he said, I will redeem it.
Just keep reading.
Then Boaz said, the day you buy the field from the hand of Naomi, you also acquire Ruth the Moabite, the widow of the dead, in order to perpetuate the name of the dead in his inheritance. Then the Redeemer said, I cannot redeem it for myself, lest I impair my own inheritance. Take my right of redemption yourself, for I cannot redeem it.
Okay, so he handles this really well. He's really straight up. He goes to the elders in the city gates. That's where they took care of business. And so he's got a lot of witnesses. He's doing all this above board. He doesn't want any scuttlebutt, any bad talk around about it, any gossip. So he just does it out in the open. There's something to be said for that too. He says, look, here's the deal. You're next in line. If you're going to redeem it, redeem it. He says, I'll do it. He says, okay, by the way, what comes with the land is Ruth. And then he's like, whoa, back the truck up. I can take the land, but I can't take her on as a wife too, because that will mess up my inheritance. So no, I can't do it. And it's a package deal. So he ends up taking himself out, and then Boaz steps in and says, okay, then I will acquire it, and I will also take Ruth as my wife. In chapter 4, verse 13, Boaz took Ruth, and she became his wife, and he went into her, and the Lord enabled her to conceive, and she gave birth to a son. And the woman said to Naomi, blessed is the Lord who has not left you without a redeemer today, and may his name become famous in Israel. May he also be to you a restorer of life and a sustainer of your old age, for your daughter-in-law who loves you and is better to you than 7 sons has given birth to him. Naomi took the child and laid him in her lap and became his nurse. And the neighbor women gave him a name, saying, a son has been born to Naomi, and they named him Obed. He is the father of Jesse, who is the father of David. So, in this little story here, we get the kid that's born will be the grandfather to King David. Does God care about normal people?
Yes.
Does God care about common folk? Yeah, he does. So a lesson for us here is to remember that there's nothing insignificant in God's economy. There's nothing insignificant. God cares about the small details. He uses normal people to accomplish his kingdom purposes. And he's doing that here. And then the lineage, when you go to the last verses, starting with verse 18, these are the generations of Perez. To Perez born Hezron. To Hezron was born Ram. To Ram Amminadab. To Amminadab Nahshon. To Nahshon Salmon. To Salmon was born Boaz. To Boaz Obed. And to Obed was born Jesse. And to Jesse David. And then that takes us into the first book of Samuel. And it's in Samuel where we get introduced to David. Let me take a moment to talk about this. Does everybody have one of these? By the way, pay attention. This is important. This is due on Wednesday. Everybody have this?
Yes.
Wait.
Yes.
I went from stealing $15 from Chick-fil-A to being homeless.
Whoa.
Okay.
Whoa.
Yeah, I already knew because
All right. Does everybody have this? Because Wednesday is a no excuse Wednesday for me.
So,
Does everybody have this? Okay. Yes, Lindsay.
you just make like bullet points.
Yes, I want them to be complete sentences and show that you've thought them through. Carson, are you paying attention? Because it doesn't look like it. Okay. Does anybody have questions about the assignment?
Wait, that's just full sentences.
Well, yeah. I mean, so what? A sentence is too hard for you?
We don't have a paragraph. It's
Oh
just
my gosh.
This is like a little much.
Okay.